Welcome to the channel, where we unravel tales of betrayal, heartbreak, and the quiet strength that comes from choosing yourself. I'm Elena, a 28-year-old graphic designer from Seattle, and this is my story. A story that starts with a dream and ends with a reckoning. It's June 2024, and I'm standing in a dimly lit community center, my hands trembling as I adjust the last of the silver streamers, the air thick with the scent of fresh flowers and anticipation. I'd spent 6 months pouring my heart into planning my younger brother Ethan's high school graduation party, a milestone I wanted him to cherish forever. I pictured his shy smile breaking into a grin, his friends crowding the dessert table, their laughter mingling with the indie beats I'd curated just for him. But as the clock struck 7 p.m., the room stayed hauntingly empty. No laughter, no music. Just the faint hum of the air conditioner and a bitter sting sinking into my chest like a shard of glass. My family had promised to be there. Instead, they were on a beach trip to Miami without me. "We thought you'd love the challenge of planning." My mom laughed over the phone, her words a dagger I couldn't dodge. That betrayal would unravel everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and myself. I'd spent weeks scouring thrift stores across Seattle for the perfect decorations, my fingers brushing against dusty shelves as I hunted for treasures. Vintage frames for the photo booth backdrop, fairy lights to string across the ceiling. Their warm glow meant to make the room feel like a dream woven from starlight. I debated every choice, my mind a whirlwind of doubt. Were the blue tablecloths too plain? Did the gold balloons look cheap? I settled on both, thinking the mix would feel festive, even if it wasn't perfect. This wasn't just a party. It was a promise I'd made to Ethan when he was 10, and I was 20, that I'd always be there for his big moments. Back then, he'd looked up to me like I was a superhero, his small hand gripping mine as we ran through the woods behind our house, our laughter echoing as we pretended to be explorers. Now, standing in that empty room, the silence pressing against me like a heavy fog, I wondered if he even cared, if the bond I'd cherished had been a one-sided illusion all along. The preparations had consumed me. I'd taken unpaid leave from my freelance design gigs, sacrificing a project that could have paid my rent for 3 months. My tiny apartment kitchen turned into a mess of flour and sugar as I baked for days. Lemon bars dusted with powdered sugar, chocolate cupcakes with swirls of frosting, a 3-tiered vanilla cake with edible flowers, each one a labor of love. I'd burned my fingers on the oven, but I didn't care. It was for Ethan. I designed custom invitations, hand-drawn with doodles of him playing soccer. I mailed them to his friends, our cousins, even his teachers. 50 people RSVP'd yes. 50 people who never showed. I wanted this night to be perfect, a moment where Ethan felt how much he mattered. I'd crafted a gift for Ethan too, a leather-bound journal, embossed with his initials. Inside, I wrote a letter, my handwriting shaky but full of love. "Ethan, you're braver than you know. I'm so proud of the man you're becoming. Never stop dreaming. Love, Elena." I tucked a photo of us inside, me teaching him to ride a bike when he was 6, both of us laughing as we fell into the grass. I imagined him opening it, his eyes softening, maybe tearing up. I wanted him to feel seen the way I never had growing up. By 6:30 p.m., the room was ready. The lights twinkled. The music was cued. I wore my favorite green dress, the one Ethan once said made me look like a forest fairy. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls, just silence, wrapping around me like a shroud. At 7:15, I paced near the entrance, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. The DJ, a college kid named Sam, fidgeted with his equipment. "Should I play something to warm up?" he asked, his voice hesitant. I forced a smile, my lips tight. "Sure. Let's set the mood," I said, my voice too bright. The first notes of Ethan's favorite song filled the space, but they sounded hollow, echoing off the empty walls. I checked my phone again. Nothing. My stomach churned, a knot of dread settling in. Maybe they were stuck in traffic. Maybe Ethan's friends were taking group photos. I bit my lip, tasting anxiety. By 8 o'clock, the truth crept in, cold and sharp. I called Ethan, straight to voicemail. His cheerful recording felt like a mockery. I called my mom next, my heart pounding. She answered on the third ring, her voice bright, waves crashing in the background. "Elena, sweetie, we meant to tell you. We're in Miami." My heart stopped. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. "Miami?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Yeah, Ethan wanted a beach day to celebrate," she said casually. "You were having so much fun planning. We didn't want to spoil it for you. Besides, you're so good at organizing. We knew you'd enjoy it." My dad chimed in cheerful. "It's good for you, Elena. Keeps you busy." I heard Ethan laugh in the background. "Tell Elena I'll bring her a seashell," he called. He didn't even care enough to tell me himself. The room spun, the fairy lights blurring as my vision swam. I looked at the untouched cake, the wilting flowers, the lights flickering like they were mocking me. This wasn't a party. It was a graveyard for my hopes. I hung up without a word, my hands shaking as I set the phone down. Sam packed up quietly, avoiding my gaze. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, slinging his bag over his shoulder. I didn't blame him. By 9 o'clock, I was alone, sitting on the floor in my green dress, the journal still wrapped in its blue box. The air smelled like sugar and regret. I unwrapped the journal, running my fingers over the leather, and let myself cry. Silent tears, the kind that burn more than they heal. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the fairy lights still buzzing in my mind. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made for my family. When I was 12 and Ethan was 4, I gave up my spot on the school art team because Mom needed me to watch him. At 16, I skipped prom to help pay for Ethan's soccer camp, working double shifts at a diner, my hands raw from scrubbing dishes. I remembered that night, eating leftover pie with the cook, Maria, who'd said, "You should be dancing, Mija." I'd smiled, shrugged, said it didn't matter. But it did. When I was 20, Dad sat me down. "You're the responsible one, Elena," he said. "Ethan needs more support. You can handle things on your own." I nodded, but inside, I felt myself shrink. I'd wanted to study abroad in Paris, to sketch the Eiffel Tower at sunrise. But Mom worried about emergencies, and Dad said I needed to stay close for Ethan's schedule. So, I went to a local community college, squeezing in classes between coffee shop shifts, the smell of espresso clinging to my clothes. I stretched a $10 bill across a week while classmates talked about their gap years in Europe. I smiled, pretending I didn't care. It was temporary, I told myself. I'd help Ethan through high school, then college. Then it would be my turn. But my turn never came, and lying there, I realized I'd been waiting for a permission that would never come. I thought about Liam, the boy I'd loved at 22, a painter with eyes like a stormy sea. We'd met at an art gallery, bonding over a Monet print. He'd begged me to travel with him, to chase our art across the world. I saw us on a train, my sketchbook open, his arm around me as the world blurred by. But I said no. I had responsibilities, Ethan's science fair, Mom's grocery budget. Liam's face fell. "You're going to regret this," he said softly. He left. A postcard from Reykjavik arrived later. "Wish you were here." I kept it in my drawer, a secret I couldn't face. I stayed. That's what good sisters do. They stay. They give. And when there's nothing left, they find more. After Liam, I threw myself into work, building a freelance design business. I saved every penny for Ethan's future, dreaming of him at a big university, studying engineering. I wanted to give him what I never had, even if it meant I'd be stuck in Seattle another decade, my dreams of Paris fading. Then Ryan came into my life. Steady, practical Ryan, who wanted a quiet life. He loved me, or the version of me who stayed small. We'd watch home improvement shows and he'd talk about our future. I thought I could want that too, until he left. "You're too afraid to live, Elena," he said, his eyes sad. "You're always waiting for permission." He wasn't wrong, and that truth stung more than his leaving. When Mom suggested I plan Ethan's party, I said yes, hoping this would prove I wasn't selfish, that I could fill the hollow space Ryan left. "It'll be amazing," I told her, my words a plea. I thought if I loved hard enough, someone would see me. Not the responsible one, but me, Elena, the girl who dreamed of painting the world. But in that empty community center, the cake melting, the lights dimming, I realized they never would. I was a tool to them, someone to plan, to pay, to fix things. When I wasn't useful, I was invisible. I stayed awake all night, my anger simmering, a fire I couldn't extinguish. The next morning, I stood in the community center, the decorations still up, the cake a melted mess, the air heavy with disappointment. I felt empty, my heart a hollow shell. Something inside me shifted, sharp and final. I wasn't going to let them erase me anymore. I called my landlord and ended my lease, handing over extra cash to smooth things over. I emailed my biggest client, a local bakery, and told them I was done. No notice, no apologies. My hands shook as I hit send, but I felt lighter, like I was shedding a skin I'd outgrown. By noon, I was back in my apartment, a one-way ticket to Italy glowing on my laptop screen. Florence, the city I'd dreamed of since I was a girl. I stared at the confirmation email, the cursor blinking like a dare. In 3 weeks, I'd be gone. From Seattle, from this life, from all of it. But first, I had one last thing to do. I picked up Ethan's journal, its weight heavy in my hands. It wasn't just a gift anymore. It was a farewell. I drove to my parents' house in Bellevue, the old SUV rattling down quiet streets, the air smelling like rain and regret. I let myself in with the spare key tucked under a flower pot. The house was the same, worn couch, photos on the walls, Ethan at every age, me always in the background, a shadow in their story. I climbed the stairs to Ethan's room, each step creaking. His room was a shrine, soccer trophies, band posters, a new laptop on his desk. I set the journal down, a letter taped to the top. I didn't write much, just the truth. This is the last gift I'll give you. I'm leaving. I'm not paying for your college. I wish you the best. Goodbye. I stood there, my fingers brushing the desk. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was done. I made it home before the calls started. Mom, Dad, Ethan. Texts flooded in, buzzing so fast my phone slid off the counter. Call me now. What's wrong with you? You're overreacting. I didn't answer. I sat at my kitchen table, sipping cold tea, staring at the ticket on my screen, its glow a lifeline. At 6 p.m., someone pounded on my door. I knew who it was. I opened it. Mom stood there, her eyes wild, clutching her purse, her breath ragged. Dad loomed behind her, his face red, arms crossed. Ethan lingered in the back, his jaw tight, eyes avoiding mine. You can't be serious, Mom said, her voice shrill. I leaned against the doorframe, steady. I am, I said, my voice calm. Dad stepped forward. You quit your job? You're leaving. I nodded. One-way ticket to Florence. Want to see it? They stared, shock and fury on their faces. Ethan spoke, his voice sharp. You're ruining everything, he spat. I looked at him, and for the first time I felt nothing. No guilt, no duty, just freedom. You said you wanted a change of plans, I said quietly. So did I. They argued, their voices a storm of guilt and blame. Mom cried, her sobs echoing. Dad shouted about family loyalty. Ethan accused me of abandoning him. You were supposed to help me with college, he yelled. I let them unravel, standing there, my silence a shield. They left, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I locked it behind them, turned off my phone, and sat in the silence. Felt like the first real breath I'd taken in years. Maybe I was crazy, but if this was madness, it felt like liberation. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family, like no matter how much you give, it's never enough? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. I'm not the only one who's been through this, right? Things didn't end there. The next morning, I was sipping coffee when a knock came at my door, gentle but ominous. My stomach dropped. I opened it to find 2 police officers, their badges glinting. Miss Harper, one said, his voice firm. We need to ask you about a reported theft. My mind blanked. Theft? Me? They explained. My parents claimed I'd stolen Ethan's college fund and cash from their house. The accusation hit me like a punch. They hadn't just dismissed me. They'd tried to destroy me. I let the officers in, pulling out my records, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Bank statements, receipts, invoices, everything in order. The fund was in my name, built from my savings, each deposit a piece of my dreams deferred. I explained, my voice even. I had to be the adult they never let me be. Took hours, calls, forms, questions. I sat at my table, the walls closing in, imagining my dream of Florence slipping away. What if they believed my parents? What if I couldn't leave? But the truth won. There was no evidence. The case was dropped. The officers apologized and left. I sank to the floor, my hands shaking. Not from fear, but rage. A fire that would light my way forward. That afternoon, I drove to Bellevue, the sky heavy with clouds. I walked into my parents' house, my steps echoing. Dad was in the kitchen, his eyes tired. Mom sat on the couch, her hands trembling. Ethan stood on the stairs, his face a mix of fury and fear. You tried to have me arrested, I said, my voice like ice. Mom flinched. Dad looked away. We didn't mean for it to go that far, he said, his voice low. I laughed. A cold sound. What was the plan then? Trap me here? Make me too scared to leave? Mom's voice trembled. You were throwing everything away, Elena. We had to stop you, for your own good. I stared at them, the people who thought control was love. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I walked out, the door clicking shut behind me, the sound final. The next day, I decided they didn't get to hide their lies. I emailed our extended family. Uncles, aunts, cousins, just the facts. How I'd planned Ethan's party, how they ditched me for Miami, how they'd laughed, how they'd filed a false police report. Then I messaged Ethan's friends, telling them why the party never happened. I didn't scream. I let the truth speak. The fallout was swift. Family group chats went silent. Ethan's social media posts vanished. Mom's perfect family image shattered. Actions have consequences. So does silence. I didn't stay to watch the wreckage. I had a plane to catch. Liam texted me that morning, his words a lifeline, train tickets to Venice booked. Art galleries are waiting. Bring your sketchbook. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, it was better, an open door to a life I'd chosen, a canvas I could finally paint with my own colors. At the airport, I stood at the gate, thinking about Ethan. Once I'd have moved mountains to make him happy. Now I was stepping out of his shadow. It felt like grief, a quiet ache for the brother I'd loved. It felt like freedom, a soaring lightness. Maybe it was both, two truths I could embrace. As my flight was called, I grabbed my bag, my sketchbook tucked under my arm, its pages a promise of new beginnings. I walked toward the gate, the air smelling like jet fuel and possibility, the scent of a future I could finally taste. For the first time, I wasn't the responsible one. I was just Elena, free, alive, and finally seen by myself. Looking back, I don't know if I made all the right choices, if there was a better way to navigate the storm they'd thrown me into. Maybe I could have handled it differently. But I chose myself, and that's a choice I'll never regret, a victory I'll carry with me like a badge of honor. What about you? Have you ever had to walk away from someone you love to find yourself, to reclaim the pieces of you they'd taken? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to connect with you, to hear your stories of heartbreak and healing. And if tales of betrayal, resilience, and new beginnings resonate with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more. Let's walk this path together.